Well, good morning everybody. How y'all doing? Pretty good here, and welcome to the channel. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hey, I was thinking today, I was looking around on the Tacoma, you know, kind of admiring the quality that Toyota has put into this truck. And they really do. And I was thinking about this area, the fender area, specifically the fender flares. You know, if you watch the channel, then you know that I had, I think it was a 2016 Ram Rebel. Awesome truck, really was for the most part, but some of the problems that I had, little annoying problems, plagued that vehicle for me, and one of them were the fender flares. For some reason, Ram, I don't know why, uses double-sided adhesive tape, which is normally just fine. You know, you shouldn't have any problem with that, and they use it around the flare, you know, to hold it on, to hold it against the truck. Now there are some screws and things here or there, but for the most part, the top part up here, and we'll zoom you up, or tilt you up a little bit, right up here at the top, is held on by double-sided adhesive tape. Now, I'm a big fan of double-sided adhesive tape. You know, the camera that's on the front of the Tacoma out there, that's how it's held on. It's fantastic how well that stuff works today. But in order for it to work well, you have to apply it properly. Now, one of the things that Ram did, they didn't put enough tape around it. You know, you'd have a little bit of tape and then no tape, and a little bit of tape and no tape. And after a while, dirt and grime and stuff works its way down into that gap, right? And starts to work into that adhesive. You know, it's out in the elements, right? It gets hot, it gets cold, it contracts, it expands. The dirt gets in there and lessens the strength of the adhesive. Now the problem that I had is after a while, right along the top, you know, of course, right where you could see it, that fender flare started to pull away from the truck. There was a gap there. And the reason that I know that it was dirt and stuff that got in there is because the adhesive was exposed. You could push that flare back in and you get that little, you ever hear that little sound, you know, when you push adhesive back against something and it pulls away, you can hear that little my impression, but you get that little sound like it was trying to stick, but it just didn't have enough oomph left, you know, and that's because it got dirty. That was Ram's way of adhering, if you will, their fender flares to the truck. Now Toyota doesn't do it that way. I was looking underneath the Tacoma this morning, and let me take you over here and show you this, because this is the way it should be done. And the reason I'm bringing this up, one, is for quality. Again, they just build such a much more quality focused product than the competitors. And two, if you're looking to change out the fender flares, this is important. So if we take a look under here, you guys can see that they actually have little pegs, if you will, or little plastic holders. You can see them. They're blue, and then there's an orange one and so forth, all the way up, and then you can't see underneath very well, but I'm assuming there's more on the other side, if not across the top as well. Now there may be some adhesive tape on there, I'm not sure, but you have these little plastic pegs or inserts to hold that fender flare in. That's something that my Ram, the wonderful Rebel, did not have. I don't know why they don't do it that way. It doesn't look that much more difficult to me, you know, when you're making the part, put a hole in it, stick a peg on the fender flare, you just pop it in, it helps hold it down. I mean, what a wonderful way to do that. They should all be done that way. You should never go out and spend the kind of money that we have to spend on trucks today, especially a full-size Rebel, and have to screw around with a less or a subpar method of holding on a fender flare. Now, the reason that I bring this up additionally, as I said, was if you're looking to replace those fender flares. I've seen some comments, seen some people talking about doing that, putting something bigger on, maybe a different color, and then going to something aftermarket, because of course everything that's OEM is more expensive, right? So what you have to watch for is, if you're going to do that, you're going to need a way, obviously, to hold the fender flare on. Now there are some screws. You can see a screw here. This is part of the fender flare. A little dirty here, but part of the fender flare here. There is a screw that holds it on, and there's a couple more screws you can see up across the top there. So you have to be aware, if you're going to go to something aftermarket, that they're probably not going to have those little tabs or those little inserts, those little pegs, if you will, that you see up here across the top of the flare, to be able to hold that in. Now, what does that mean? Why is that important? Well, it's important because if you're going to rely on adhesive, you need to make sure that you put enough on, enough around the edges, obviously. Tilt you back around here. Enough around these edges to hold that on. Because if you don't, if you leave any gap, and personally, from my experience with the Rebel, there needs to be a full, uninterrupted, now you can piece it together, but line of adhesive tape all the way around. Because if you don't do that, you're going to leave a gap at some point between the pieces of tape, and over time, with heating and cooling and dirt and snow and salt, depending on where you live, for dirt and grime and stuff to get in there and degrade that adhesive, it's going to lose its elasticity, if you will, or its adhesive power, and eventually it's going to start to pull away, and you're going to have the same problems that I had on my Rebel, and nobody wants that, right? So if you're looking to replace these fender flares with something aftermarket, make sure that you do it right. I mean, a roll of tape costs, I don't know, $6. It'll do your whole truck. Invest the time and the money to go ahead and put tape all the way around those flares, just to make sure that you don't have that problem. Because believe me, there's nothing more annoying than walking by your nice, shiny, freshly washed truck and looking down at that fender flare and seeing that little gap and seeing that little strip of tape where you did put some exposed. And then you go to push it in, and again you get that, you know, that sound from the adhesive trying to work. It's trying, but it can't do it because it's clogged, it's full of dirt. So just a little bit of a little piece of advice. Let's take a look at the front real quick. The front is hidden. You can't see anything underneath the wheel well, or the insert there. You guys can see here. All you can see is that there are some bolts, which I like. You can see a bolt here. You can see a bolt actually here. There's one there, and then more over here. If the camera picks it up, there you go, on the fender flare itself. Now I'm hoping, again, and I'm assuming since they did the rear this way, that there are indeed these little pegs or inserts, whatever you want to call them, that do punch through and hold this, this fender flare in. And I have heard that there are, and that's been a problem for some people that are trying to replace these with some sort of an aftermarket, is that they don't come with those little inserts or those little pegs, if you will. So just to beware, if you're looking to change those out to something else, be mindful of that, and use enough double-sided tape that you're not going to have any issue. I'm not sure why anybody would want to change them out. You know, from a personal taste standpoint, I think that what comes on the truck, at least on this trim level, is sufficient. But I know, you know, people go out and put on, you know, wider tires and such, and in some states you can only have so much of the tire poking out from the edge, and then you're going to have a problem. So make sure you do it right, make sure you do your research, and make sure you do a good clean install, and then you won't have any problems. Anyway, I just wanted to get on here, talk about that a little bit, because I'm always impressed. Every time I go out and look at the Tacoma, there's always something, as compared to other trucks that I've had, that stands out to me and shows a little bit extra that Toyota has put in from a quality standpoint. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the web. Have a great day. Bye.